Okay, so in a video I had posted just a short time ago, I had mentioned a logo animation project that I got roped into, and this is what the final thing looked like. Let you see that one more time. Okay, so the story behind this is that one of my very, very good friends that I grew up with is part of this entity called Team GPG, and literally I'm just going to skip through this video because this is not actually a public video, so I can't really show the address or whatever. But what they did was they, well, you can see right there, this is a long distance shot of 3.4 miles. I think by a pretty wide margin, a longer distance successful shot than any in the history of the world by quite a bit. So they basically just broke the world record the other day. So I'm just going to kind of clip through this. And they had they had cameras set up at the obviously at the target and yada yada. Anyway, you can kind of get what happened. So anyway, Paul Phillips, who is the friend I mentioned, he again, he's one of the best sharpshooters in the world. One could argue the best, since it was him that took the shot. Now, of course, you need your spotter and you need all the technology, and he'd be the first to tell you that. So what he did was he sent me this logo, and he's like, yeah, I want some animation, something that kind of sweeps in and whatever. He wasn't really sure what he wanted. So here was my solution, because I didn't really want to spend tons and tons of time with this, and I wanted to, I'm working with his logo. I don't want to change anything in the logo itself. And plus, this is something that would go at the beginning of a YouTube video, so it needs to be really clean and simple, as you can see from the prior animation. So basically, here's what I did. Number one, crop the logo, save that as a file. Crop the name, save that as a file, and then crop in the bullet here, and then clean up the alpha channel so that it's basically transparent. So that's really all I did in Krita. Alright, and then I brought it into opentoonz, and again, the goal here is to keep it really, really simple. So what I did was I guess what I'll do here is, I'll just progress through it. So simple animate tool, hit the A key, and you want to hit the shift key when you actually drag it around. Like when I created this keyframe, like if I hit the animate key, I'm going to hit shift because that constrains it to the axis you begin moving on, right? Okay, so then having done that, I just animated in the name. So really simple, and I tell you, with animated logos, simple is good. You want to keep it real clean. Okay, so now I wanted to do something to call attention to the bullet. So if you notice here, the bullet actually is not in the scene. And if you look really close, you can see a little change right there in the middle, right in this region. But what I did then was I dragged the bullet in here, and then fortunately, if you watch this palette entry right here, see that? Okay, so if you didn't know this, this is something you can do is in the palette you can click the little key icon and set keyframes, so you can animate color, transparency of a color, whatever you want. And so what I did was I animated the bullet to sort of glow to grab your attention a little bit, and then I actually had a second instance of the bullet right here that I also animated to be white. But now here's kind of the key. If you look at this in fully rendered mode, you see some pretty crazy stuff going on. And the thing that's funny about it is how quick and easy it was to get this really cool effect. How did I do it? Well, let's hit the F3 key, and you'll see it's quite simple actually, and it's a good example of opentoonz compositing capabilities. All I did was take the bullet that needed to have the effect, and then I added a glow effect. Right, and let's actually let's get to where this kicks in. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So now if we turn the glow effect off, you can see the glow is doing a lot for us. But following the glow, I added a directional blur. Okay. So if you had just the glow, you'd get this, but you put on the directional blur, and you get this pretty cool looking effect, quite economically. Okay. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, let me see if I animated this. Looks like the direction, yeah, I didn't animate the directional blur because the sequence here just simply ends, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see about the glow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it really is amazing how simple this was. I was thinking, did I animate any of the parameters? The one thing I did do additionally, though, was I was a little bit... I've never had occasion in opentoonz to just do a simple fade out. Believe it or not, I wasn't sure how to do it. And I did figure out how to do it quite quickly, but here's what I did. I'm sure there's probably actually a more efficient way to do a simple fade out. But if you go into the schematic, what I did was I just went to the X sheet. You notice that in the schematic, there is the X sheet normally connects to the output. So it's kind of cool that everything feeds into the X sheet. You've sort of got this extra node there because you can put something in between, which would be for like color correction, that sort of thing. So all I did was added a simple level adjustment, and then I keyframed the RGB output from over 1.5 seconds. For whatever reason, when it reached 0, you could still see the logo very, very faintly. But once I also put the same keyframe on the red, green, and blue outputs, then it went to complete black. So very, very clean, very simple, very crisp. Where to go from here? Well, I'm going to discard the changes on that. So then what I did was I brought the animation into Reaper and kind of show here in essentially 4 steps what I did. The first step was I took this piece that if you follow my channel, you've probably heard this music playing in the background sometimes. This is a piece that I wrote just as a piece of production music, and so I basically took the beginning of it and the end of it and I cut it. And then I'm like, okay, so now what I got to do is sew those 2 pieces together on that bullet shot effect. But I wanted to emphasize the glow of red. I wanted to give an audio cue to, again, grab your attention there. So what I did was I added this sort of electrical effect. Now it cuts off really abruptly because that gets displaced with the explosion. One thing you find is there's always the temptation to take special effects and like layer them over top of each other so it gets bigger and bigger. Actually, what happens is a lot of times it gets smaller and smaller. And so you want to go ahead and cut things off so they get out of the way, so that to an extent different effects can take center stage without distraction, if you will. So once I added the, I'll say that the explosion is actually 2 effects combined. So it was that, which you might be surprised to know, that is mostly my voice. Like, I just go into the microphone, and with the right effects and maybe a little pitch transposition and stuff, you can make some amazing like trailer sound effects. So then there's also this one. It's a little deeper rumble, and so then when you put it all together, nice and concise, a great 5-second branding statement for Paul's YouTube channel. So anyway, I would say keep an eye out for this guy. He's breaking world records, and he's got some of the coolest technology that's been brought to bear to help them get the shots and take into account everything possible. I mean, I don't know that much about it, but I mean, obviously wind, gravity, um, whatever the barometer, air pressure, uh, it's quite amazing what they're doing, and changing the world in the realm of precision shooting. So anyway, kudos to Paul, and I was happy to create this little branding statement for him, and I just wanted to kind of show how